Let's go through this college player's 3D swing physical assessment. Now, when we're looking at this report, this is going to show us where a player may be at risk for injury. It's really important to know that just because a player has these risks doesn't mean that they're guaranteed injury. Just because something is not highlighted on here doesn't mean that it won't be injured. There's all sorts of reasons on why a player may get injured. This is meant to be additional information to help keep the player healthy throughout long seasons of golf. As a player starts playing competitive golf at a really high level, they're playing lots and lots of golf. They're going to have risk of overuse injuries, and it's important that they're feeling good when they go into those tournament play. Now, let's dive into this player. You're going to see he has a 58 for his score. The three areas that we highlighted for the potential risk is going to be hip flexor, SI joint, and lower back. Now, in this report, we are looking at very specific trackers and indicators. Some of these trackers and indicators are going to be in the app for people to be able to see. Some of them are going to be on the back end for just us at Sportsbox to be able to see. And so you'll see the indicators that I highlighted here: the chest and pelvis side bend range of motion, the chest side bend max, and the X factor. These three are kind of the big reasons why we believe this player is at risk for a hip flexor, SI joint, and lower back injury. Now, it's great for us to be able to actually look at the player's swing and point out what we're talking about in this summary here. So the summary is going to start off by obviously laying out the fact that this player has a risk of hip flexor, SI joint, and a lower back injury. When we're looking at Gavin's swing, we're going to notice that his range of motion, so the amount of motion happening from a side bend point of view for the pelvis and chest, is going to be on the low end of the range relative to the PGA Tour. So essentially, he doesn't have a lot of pelvis and chest side bend throughout the golf swing. And it's going to be really important as I talk about this pelvis side bend. Now, we're going to notice as well that he has this very wide stance. And this wide stance and the fact that his side bend, if you're looking at his pelvis, you can see that yellow line going right through the hips there. That's going to be his side bend. It's at 2.6. As he goes up to the top, he's at negative 4.4, which is definitely on the low end. You want it from 10.8 to negative 7.4. You can see he's quite a bit off. Now, because the pelvis is going to be we can call it flat at the top, the lead side isn't angled downward enough. You can really see this from the down the line view. And because of this wide stance, it makes it really, really hard for this player to be able to move to the lead side well. And so if you look at this pelvis sway, notice as he's going into impact, how his pelvis is only moved basically 2.6 inches towards the target. Generally, for PGA Tour players, you're going to notice on average that the pelvis sway is closer to 4 inches. So for him, his pelvis really is kind of just staying back throughout that swing. And you'll also see that here at his finish, because he's at 3.5, where you'd want to be between 6.5 to 11 inches forward. So there's just not much movement to this lead side. Now, this is really important for a few reasons, okay? Because of the wide stance, because of the angle of the pelvis, and the fact that he doesn't get to his lead side, there's going to be some very specific things that happen in his golf swing. I want to pay attention here to this lead leg, okay? Watch as he goes into impact and through impact, how this lead leg is going to be lifting up. As this happens, as this hip is going to be, as that leg, I should say, is going to be pushing and lifting up, this is going to make it so that there's a lot of pressure and weight kind of getting put onto that trail leg. And what ends up happening when he has this backing up in the swing is it can put quite a bit of strain on that hip flexor, because his hip is going to continue to turn. He's going to continue to extend, which then is going to make it so that this hip flexor is being stretched. And that is going to make it so that it's at risk. Now, when we look at the SI joint, there's some overlap here, okay? So because of that lead leg, right, pushing back, kind of lifting up, pressure getting into this trail side, what you'll notice for him at the top of the swing here, that pelvis being very flat, negative 4.4, something that's very interesting for the player is now as he works down into impact at shaft horizontal, his pelvis side bend all of a sudden is going to be pretty high. So it's going to be pretty flat at the top. And then now all of a sudden that left side, that lead hip is going to be actually pretty high. And so he goes from the low side of the range to the high side of the range. And you can see that here at DCH because he's at 8.9 degrees, where the range is from 4.4 to 8.5. The reason this matters is because now he's going to have to be pushing off of that trail leg. So he's going to push off of that trail leg. And if you notice here for his chest side bend max, it's going to be at 55.1. So this pushing of the trail leg, and then this additional side bend that you're going to be seeing in the chest, this is going to make it so that the glute can become a little active. And then this can cause the SI joint to get a pinch in the nerve. And that's where we said that his SI joint could have some discomfort as well, because his pelvis is going from the low end of the range to the high end of the range. He's having to push off that trail leg quite a bit, which will get it to where the glute muscles are activating, and that can lead to that SI joint discomfort. Lastly, when we look at Gavin's swing, we'll notice at his finish. At his finish, if you look at his turn numbers, specifically pelvis and chest turn, and then his X factor, you'll see that he has quite a bit of chest turn. And his pelvis turn doesn't have a lot of turn in it. It's kind of just average, let's say. So he creates this really large X factor in his finish. As a result of basically how his lower body is moving that I pointed out, that's leading to the risk of the hip flexor and SI joint, this also can make it so that he gets an overuse injury and has a little bit of strain in the lower back. Because now, as that chest is continuing to turn through and starts to get all this added turn at the finish, that can cause a strain from that X factor. And that's where his abs and lumbar spine might feel it. So there you have it. You can see how we came to the conclusion of the potential risk for hip flexor, SI joint, and lower back injuries for this college player. If you're a player that would like help on your game, you're playing at an elite level in high school, college, or professionally, and you have been suffering some discomfort and you want to know a little bit more on why it's happening, please reach out to me. My email is ryanc@sportsbox.ai. I would love to help you out.